All right, in this video, we are going to talk about the finite statistics project. It's an Excel-based project. It does have to be done in Microsoft Excel, which is available free for all U of A students through the university. So if you don't have Excel, make sure to get that first. All right, up at the top, we've got the due date for the project. Your due date will be here once you get the project. Next, we've got where you list out the names and email addresses of everyone in your group. Make sure, as this note says, that the name you list is the exact same as it is in MyLabs Plus. So if your name is Robert and that's what it's listed as in MyLabs Plus, don't put your first name as Bobby. It's not gonna, the grades will not transfer over because it won't know that you're the same person. All right, so it says before we do anything else, we want to list those names, email addresses, and then we want to go to File, Save As, and save the project in the format given, which is finite stat. You're going to put your class time, or if you're in the entirely online class, it'll just say online there. And then we're going to replace LN1, LN2, LN3, and LN4 with the last names of the people in your group. All right, and then make sure to read the instructions for submitting the assignment. They're not terribly complicated, but make sure to read it so that you submit it correctly. And then also read through all of the ways in which you can lose points on the project. Make sure to do that. All right, let's move on. The Your Grade page is going to show you what your grade on the project is. Right now, I haven't started it, so I'm at 0%. Every box, for the last 3 tabs are the ones where you're going to be typing in answers. Every box on those 3 tabs is worth points. So every time you get a correct answer, this number should go up. All right, we'll move on to Start Here. In this project, you have 6 data sets. 3 are 40 student samples of standardized test scores from 3 classrooms, each at a different school. The other 3 are 40 employee samples from 3 businesses, indicating whether the employee participates in the company retirement plan, that's a value of 1, or not, which is a value of 0. We're going to define success as participation in the company retirement plan. All right, so down below we've got these numbers, but it says after you have listed your group members' names on the instructions page, which I have not done yet. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to put my name and my email address. All right. And then we'll go back to Start Here. So these will be the correct numbers for me. All right. So I'm going to write these down on a sheet of paper. That you'll want to do the same. So 21, 4, 33, 73, 98, 53. All right, only one person in your group needs to do this. So once you have your 6 numbers, your entire group should be using the same 6 numbers. So you shouldn't have multiple sets of numbers for different people in your group. All right. So then it says after we write down those numbers, we're going to delete the numbers. Just trust us on that one. If you want to know why, you're welcome to ask, but it just makes things easier. So, all right, let's go to the data sheet. Now, again, we want to write these down so that way we know them since we just deleted them. So my numbers were 21, 4, 33, 73, 98, and 53. All right, so now we've got my 3 groups of student test scores and then my 3 groups of the employee samples. There are 40 in each group. And then down here at the bottom, this green space is available for you to use for calculations using Excel. So nothing in this space is graded. That's just all for you to use. All right, let's move on to the next sheet. All right, summary statistics. So we've got measures of central tendency and measures of variation for our normal distribution. We want to round all of those values to 2 decimal places. And then the binomial distribution, we're wanting to count the number of successes, which we defined on the Start Here page. So if you don't remember what successes are, go to the Start Here page. And then we want to find the probability of success. Now, don't overthink this one. To find the probability of success, you do not need any sort of calculator function. It's not binom PDF or binom CDF. This is just basic definition of probability. Number of elements in the event divided by number of elements in the sample space. And don't round those values at all. So whatever value you get, just put that in, however many decimal places it is. All right. Now, one of the things we can do is we can use Excel functions to find these. We can use our calculator, and feel free to do that. But we can also use Excel functions, and those are pretty helpful. So, for example, if we want to find the mean of group 1, if we click back here, here is our group 1. And I'll show you how to do the first one. So the mean, I type equals average, which I don't particularly care for because the mean, median, and mode are all forms of an average. It should be equals mean, but it's not. Anyway, so equals average, and then I open parenthesis. All right, our data starts in column C, row 9, so C9 through C48. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to type C9 and then a colon C48. And if I scroll here, I can make sure, yep, all of my data is selected. So then just close parenthesis. And there's my mean. So now I'm done. And I can type that in on our summary stat page. And that's my mean. And then I can do the same thing for the next few groups. So you can do these, you can do quite a few of the summary statistics with this. There's equal median. So you can use that one. To find standard deviation, it's STDEV or STDEV.S. They're the exact same thing. I just use equals STDEV. And then, again, type in where your data is. Variance is just VAR. So you can use that one to find variance. Minimum and maximum are probably, as you would guess, min for minimum, max for maximum. The functions always start with an equal sign, and then we always put a parenthesis and tell it where our data is, which for group 1 is always going to be C9 through C48. So that would give us what our maximum is right there. There's no function for range, but you could do your maximum minus your minimum, and that's going to give you your range. So anyway, but we can use those functions, or you can type all the values into your calculator, whichever you prefer to do. All right. Now, there's a note here that if you want to use Excel function within these answer boxes, so if you wanted to do it here, equals mean, it's a little bit more complicated because you have to select the data sheet and the correct cells. You can do that, but you're also going to need to use the round function. Because if you don't use the round function, then the value won't be rounded to 2 decimal places, which you want to do. So you would have to do round and then use the round function on the outside of, whoops, not mean, average. It should be mean, but it's average. So anyway, if that doesn't make any sense, that's quite all right. You don't have to do that. You can use your calculator to find all of those, and that's perfectly fine. However you want to find your answers doesn't really matter to us. All right. So that's our summary stats, and we're going to use those. We'll use all of these summary stats from the normal distribution for the normal tab, and then we'll use these statistics from the binomial for our binomial tab. So you'll need to keep coming back to the summary stat page. All right, so on the normal distribution, we actually have a normal distribution up here, and you can type in your mean and standard deviation. So let's say one of our groups had a mean of 78 and a standard deviation of 13. You type that in, it's going to make a picture of our normal distribution. This is not graded. This is just so you can kind of picture what your normal distribution looks like. For purposes of this project, we're going to define a rare event to be one that happens with a probability, that has a probability of happening of less than 5%. Make sure to read through that because we're going to talk about rare event down in some of the questions. So all of these you're going to solve using either a calculator function, normal, CDF, INV norm, or just finding the z-score. So all of these will be one of those 3 things. So anyway, that's how the normal distribution page works. For all values, you're going to round to 2 decimal places. Again, if you want to use Excel functions in here, which there are some for the normal distribution, you can do that. You're welcome to do that, but you also need to use the round function so that they're rounded to 2 decimal places correctly. Now, there's this note in yellow that says, depending on your sample, some answers may fall outside of the expected 0 to 100 range. And that's because we are using the normal distribution as an approximation of the testing distribution. So if you get an answer that's, 105, it doesn't mean it's incorrect. Even though a test cuts off at 100, the normal distribution doesn't. So you could have a number over 100, you could have a number less than 0. That doesn't mean your answer is wrong. So don't worry about that. All right, let's go on to the binomial page. All right, our binomial distribution, we've got one of those up here. And so we can, whatever our P is, let's say it's 0.35. We type that in. That's going to give us our binomial distribution there. So again, this part is not graded. It's just there so you can kind of eyeball what your distribution is going to look like. So a note here for this part of the project, we're assuming that the 40 employee samples are from this year and come from companies of 60 employees each. We're going to use the information from the binomial samples to make generalizations about the 60-person company for next year. So we're assuming that the probability that a given employee will participate in the retirement plan this coming year is the same as it was from the sample. So you'll notice even over here, N is going to be 60. So your number of trials for everything on this page is going to be 60. So we have the number 60 listed a lot of times. So N always equals 60 for everything on this page. All right. So note here, we're going to round everything on this page to 4 decimal places. Same note, if you want to use binomial Excel functions, you're welcome to do so, but you also need to use the round function so that they're rounded to 4 decimal places. Now, depending on your P, some answers might be outside of or might be 0 or 1, and that is perfectly normal. Don't use more than 4 decimal places. So if the answer is 0.00001, don't put that. That to 4 decimal places is just 0, and that's okay. Don't use extra decimal places because you think 0 is a wrong answer. Oh, same thing for 1. If your answer is 0.9999999, don't put that as your answer. That to 4 decimal places rounds to 1. So round to 4 decimal places no matter what. Remember that a computer is grading this. So it doesn't see that you're just trying to be more accurate. It sees that your answer is not what it thinks it should be. So you will more than likely have some answers of 0 and 1 in here. So don't be surprised by that. All right, so that's how the project works. So good luck on your project.